This is my first time using a Xiaomi phone, and today I'm going to discuss whether or not Xiaomi is ready to take on Samsung and Apple in the US market. And let's dive into my initial impression to find out. So we'll start off with the unboxing. I bought this phone directly from Amazon because in the US it's technically not readily available in all the carriers. If you want it, you have to buy it from a third party. And I bought it from Amazon along with some dish soap because I needed those. And the box that it came in, it was basically had a whole bunch of soap in it. And then on the side, it had my cell phone laying in there without any bubble wrap or anything. So not the most pleasant packaging experience. Of course, if you want a more ideal experience, just buy the phone itself, and pretty sure it's gonna come in the proper bubble wrap. So just keep that in mind if you're buying a phone or from Amazon. Try not to buy too many big things with it, or else it's gonna toss it all in one big box. But regardless, even though the packaging wasn't that ideal, I do like the fact that once you got to the unboxing itself, on the outside is a large box. So I was thinking I was gonna get more inside the box. But once I started opening it, I guess you do have the bumper case, but then there was not any charging brick. It still caught me by surprise. I know Samsung and Apple doesn't do it anymore. OnePlus still does it. For some reason, I thought Xiaomi would still give you a charging brick. I would rather have a charging brick than a bumper case because this phone supports up 100 watt fast charging, but I don't have a 100 watt brick laying around. I do have a 50 watt, so you gotta buy that if you want to take advantage of the full fast charging that this phone is capable of. So definitely a bummer there. I like how OnePlus, their phones support 100 watt fast charging and it comes with a 100 watt charging brick, but you don't have that here with the Xiaomi phone. So a little bit of a letdown there right off the bat. I like the fact that the phone does come with the screen protector pre-installed, so that's a nice touch. The bumper case it comes with is nice. I usually use my phone without cases, so I'm going to go at least a week or two on this phone without a case, just to get the full experience. So far, holding it, it feels nice. It has rounded corners, so it doesn't feel like it's jabbing me or anything like that. Unlike the Galaxy S24 Ultra, the Galaxy S23 Ultra, when I hold those phones, it is super sharp and the edges kind of jab into my palm and it hurts a little. But it's not the case with this phone. So far it feels nice holding it in the hand and it doesn't hurt. That's all I can really ask for. This phone is close to 6.7 inches, so it's a really large phone on par with the Galaxy S24 Plus. So it is big, but it doesn't feel cumbersome like the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which is a lot closer to the 7-inch range. It does come with a USB cable, but this one is USB-A to USB-C. Kind of a letdown there because a lot of companies are moving towards USB-C. You would think that they would have USB-C on both sides, but instead one side is A and then one side is C. A is just a standard port that you find in a lot of laptops. Surprised the technology is still sticking around. For whatever reason, OnePlus, even though they have really super fast charging, it uses USB-A on one end and USB-C on the other end. So it's kind of annoying because a lot of phones that I have and many manufacturers are doing USB-C on both sides. So Xiaomi seems like they're still lacking a little bit there. And it does feel like a slight step back there. And once again, still very disappointed about the lack of charging brick right off the bat. But after opening up the phone, initially seeing the box, again being excited, doing the unboxing, once you boot up the phone, it feels pretty familiar with any modern smartphones there. And then once all the excitement wears off, it kind of just feels like any regular smartphone, to be honest. So next, let's jump into the actual design and build. The camera bump doesn't look that nice. It's unattractive. Got the four giant large circles in the back. But you know, these days, all these big phones, the one with the best camera, they get the biggest camera hump. They don't look that appealing. But I guess usually bigger lenses, you can let in more lights. So it's not pleasant to look at, but it is what it is. You're staring at the front of the screen the most of the time. You're really looking at the back. So that's just my opinion. It might not look the nicest, but we shall see if the camera is gonna be good in the long run. I'm actually recording this video using the Xiaomi phone selfie camera. It is just docked onto my tripod and I'm just recording it so you can see the quality. And I'm using an external mic as well. Hopefully it will record. I know Samsung phone, you connect it, it'll automatically record. Pixel phone, you have to go into the settings and turn on the mic. Motorola phones, they do not recognize the mic at all if you're doing video recording, at least from my experience. So hopefully by the end of this video I will have some audio and just wouldn't be me moving my lips for 20 minutes. And the phone overall weighs at about 197 grams and it feels pretty comfortable. It's a good weight, does not feel heavy or anything like that. I think once you start crossing over the 200 gram, 230, 250, those start to feel more cumbersome, but under 200 is still relatively comfortable from someone who prefers small phones like the Galaxy S24. This one feels pretty easy to hold and use. Software wise, this is my first time using Hyper OS, so it's gonna take me a lot of time to get used to. There's a big learning curve for me right off the bat. When I first swipe down the phone, if you do it on the left side, you get the notification panel. If you do it on the right side, you get the Wi-Fi toggles and things like that. So it's kind of similar to the iPhone, but it's kind of challenging because sometimes I end up swiping the wrong side. If I'm holding my phone in my right hand, I'm trying to access the notification. I have to reach a little bit further to the left in order to swipe it down and then get the notification, or else I'm just gonna get the Wi-Fi menu. Same thing if I'm holding on the left hand. If I want to get to the Wi-Fi, if I'm swiping it down, then I'm getting a notification. So I just wish they just kept it normal, like on Samsung Pixel phone. One swipe down, you get the notification on the bottom, and then the Wi-Fi toggle and everything on top. So little things like that take some time to get used to, and you have to you can still swipe left and right once you bring down the menu, but just an extra steps. And navigation wise, you get the home button at the bottom, the recent button, and also the back button. I immediately changed this to gestures since I'm so used to using gestures at this point. Having buttons at the bottom feels archaic, especially for these larger phones. If you're already holding it in the palm of your hand and you want to hit back with gesture, you can just swipe on the side and go back instead of having to reach your thumb all the way to the bottom to hit the recent button or the back button. Not really ideal, so I switched it to gestures. That's like one of the first things I did and noticed right off the bat once I got this phone. And there are a lot of other weird quirks as well when using Hyper OS. For example, when I pull up all the apps, a lot of the time, most phones I use, the search bar is on top, so I'm automatically always jump to the top to kind of search the app, but this phone is at the bottom, which in theory is a good idea because I like things at the bottom so it's easier to reach, but my muscle memory is still automatically going to the top to try and search for certain apps. Another thing that is a little bit different is once you pull up the recent menu, most phones you swipe up to kick the app away so you can use another app, but this phone there's the recent menu and then you kind of swipe left or right. So it's a lot of muscle memory that you have to fight against based on other Android phones I have used in the past. And it's going to take some time to get used to, I guess. I'm going to give it at least a week before doing any drastic changes. I know I can try different launchers to combat that, but I want to give it time and give Hyper OS a chance before I just go back to what I'm used to in the past. Specs wise, this phone is a beast. For under $700. You get 12 gigs of RAM compared to the 8 gigs if you buy a standard Galaxy S24 model. It is $100 less than the S24 as well. I like the fact that it has Quad HD. S24 only have 1080p. To be honest, it doesn't really make that much of a difference for me, but some people will notice a difference, and it's still a spec bump regardless. You get 144 Hz refresh rate compared to 120 on the Galaxy S24. You also get higher peak brightness as well, 4000 nits compared to 2600 nits, and faster UFS 4.0 storage, so you can transfer data faster from your phone to your computer. These little things are minor. It might not make the difference to most normal everyday people, but for those who are into all the specs and looking to get value, this is a great value, getting all these high-end features that the Galaxy S24 does not offer, and it is $100 less, so a lot to like there. And it even comes with 512 gigabytes of storage, which is amazing. Galaxy S24, you're only getting 120 gigabyte, and I feel like 128 is barely enough for me to make it through a day. Like all my apps, everything takes up so much space. YouTube Music, I'd have like music downloaded offline, Google Photos, everything take up storage. Even if you have Google Drive, there's like the storage on your phone, storage on the cloud, then you're mapping it so that if you have like offline copy, they both take up space. And with my S24, I'm currently struggling right now, 120 gigabyte. I'm constantly going back in, deleting apps, trying to make sure I'm not saving too many things offline. I think 256 you can get away with it, but this one 512 gigabyte is a very nice bump, and you can live with this for a while. Fingerprint sensor actually feels pretty fast, doesn't really bother me. Everything opens in one try, so good job there. And in my test with this phone, I'm not going to do any benchmark testing or anything like that. I'm just going to compare it to real world use. When people use their phone, some people like to look at the testing to see all the scores and see who is better than what. I just care if the phone is fast or not, if it's lagging or anything like that. If there's any stutter, restarting, any weird issues, I'm going to certainly call those out. But for the most part, I don't expect to be any issue on this phone. So after finally setting the phone up, I finally took it for a drive at roughly 5 p.m. in the evening. So I started off by connecting my phone to Android Auto as I'm driving around. The beginning part of setting up Android Auto gets a little annoying. With a lot of different phones, you have to go into the app and then go into the settings and the permission, allow basically for the Android Auto to have access to your location. I know why they do it, but it's kind of extra steps and it's annoying. If you're already using any smartphone, it's just a one-time thing that you need to set up. It's just the beginning of it. If you switch phones a lot, it does get tedious to kind of have to go through that whole process all over again. But so far, this phone battery life is pretty good. With my first full day of using it, even within the first 5 hours of having the phone, I noticed a 21% drop in the battery. So this in theory should last it up to 24 hours. It actually ended up lasting me about 26 hours in total. But in between that, I did have it connected while I'm driving around with Android Auto via cable. And then on the second day, I was driving around, but I have it sitting on a fast wireless charger. It is an older wireless charger that I always had in my 12-year-old car, roughly 15 watt fast charging. So I drove anywhere from 30-minute one way and about an hour the other way. So if you want, even though I had the full 26 hours, you can probably knock off 2 or 3 hours. So it is pretty good battery life. It hits the 24-hour mark, maybe plus or minus a couple of hours. It does not give me any battery anxiety with this phone, which I love. Unlike the Samsung Galaxy S24, even if I drive around and I have it on a wireless charger, I have it on Android Auto, it is still not enough for it to even get a lot of charge. Maybe I'll get a 1% or 2, maybe a whole charge, but it doesn't really have an impact just like the way it does on this phone. When I have it on a wireless charger, it actually does pick up battery life while it's charging. But this phone does have a 120 watt fast charging. And one thing I do want to point out is I did want to take a shower with this phone. I like to listen to podcasts in the shower. The speaker is really loud, which is nice and really pleasant. I can listen to podcasts and hear everything just fine. When I have my Galaxy S24, the phone is much smaller, so I do have trouble hearing podcasts in the shower. Music is fine, but if I'm listening to actual audio, it's more challenging to hear on the S24 compared to the Xiaomi 14T. And as a result of having the phone in the shower, I finally took it out, I dried the phone, and then I went to bed. The phone was at 2% since I was doing my full battery life testing over the full day or so. And I just plugged in my phone, it said it's charging, and it's going to take 2 hours to charge. I didn't really care. I think it's a 15 watt fast charger, but when I woke up in the morning, it was still at 5%. So somewhere along the way, it stopped charging. And I think the reason for that might have been there could have been water in the port that stopped it from charging, but there wasn't an indicator, nothing screaming, beeping, yelling, telling me that. So the next morning I woke up expecting to have 100%. It was still at 5%. So really disappointing. As much as Samsung's phone is annoying every time I charge it, I hear the buzzer go off because there's some water in there. At least I know that is the reason why. Then I can slap it on a wireless charger. I can lay it straight up so that the water can flow down. But in this case, I guess it was just a one-time thing, but it's worth pointing out that I did experience that, and then the next day I have to charge it a little bit more just to make it through the day. Camera wise, you're getting a triple camera setup in the back with this phone. Overall, just pointing, shooting, it feels fine. Quality is actually pretty good, no complaints there. These days, I need a flagship phone, have really good camera, and this one works just fine. I snap pictures of random things, no complaint here on my end. Although the biggest complaint I do have is I wish the power button, on most phones that I've used, Google, Samsung, I can just double tap the power button and launch my camera. In this case, I double tap it, it doesn't do anything. If I hold it, then it will launch Gemini. I just wish there was like a quick launch function there. Maybe, I don't know, I can probably just do more research, see this way to quick launch the camera. I know I can do it from the home screen, it's there, I can flick it up. But just out of habit, I like having a physical button. I have always used on Samsung, OnePlus, and in this case, every time I do it, it just doesn't launch the camera. So kind of disappointing there. And with Xiaomi phone, it's not really readily available in the US. Obviously, you can buy it on Amazon, but normal everyday people, they can't just walk into T T-Mobile or Verizon and see this phone or even know it exists. You really have to be a phone enthusiast or live in China to even know about this phone. So in the US, iPhone and Samsung remain dominant. This one is a really good value, and I just think that it does deserve some more recognition at roughly $700. It is going toe to toe with what the Plus model that Samsung has at $1,000, and there's really a lot to like here. And this phone even has an IR blaster, which is rare. It's nice to see that these are starting to come back. It was on the OnePlus Open recently, and now we're seeing it again on the OnePlus 12R, I believe, and even the Xiaomi 14T. It's a very welcome sign. Although these days I don't really watch TV as much, but if I do, I would have loved to have the IR blaster. I'm forever losing my remote, but I'm never losing my phone. And what kind of minor hiccup that I had when I was using Android Auto for the first time, it did disconnect halfway during the first day of using it. Maybe things are updating in the background, who knows, but I had to unlock the phone in the middle of my drive and fumble around a little bit just to pick it back up. But it hasn't happened since. Navigation wise, I don't know, I feel like some of it's annoying in a way, and it's not in line with a lot of the Android phone I've used in the past. So it does take some time to relearn it, especially if you are a hardcore Android user for the longest time. And then some of my initial texting with iPhone users, there were some issues with sending RCS messages. It was not going through, so I had to do the SMS way, maybe because it's not really supported in the US, even though it is on the T-Mobile network. I still had some weird issues there just with texting on the first day of using the phone. But overall, pretty impressed with this phone. If you're just looking for value and hardware specs, gives you a lot of value, especially at $700 compared to the $800 or $1,000 Galaxy S phones out there. It is affordable. You get a lot of high-end features for almost a mid-range cost. The 14T, the non-Pro version, will be a little bit cheaper, so you can get more value there as well. And I think that it is a really fun phone to use if you like large phone with high-end specs, a lot of storage, IR blasters, great camera, great processor, and just overall great value. I think there's a lot to like about this phone. If you're an early adopter, if you're a tech enthusiast, you want to try a new phone, or if you're an iPhone user and you want to try Android for the first time, this actually might not be a bad idea because all the UI feels very similar to the iPhone, even though it's an Android phone, so maybe that's what they were going for. I still find it to be annoying, and I'm not used to all the quirks of the iOS interface on the Android side. So that's just my personal take with Hyper OS. Alright guys, so that is my initial impression, my first day of using the phone. But overall, I think it's a really fun phone to use. It is a great price, great value, and you don't mind trying something new. I think it's definitely worth it so far, even though I haven't used it for that long. But just in terms of all the other phones I tested in the past, I love the OnePlus 12R this year at roughly $500. I might still go for the R just for the value wise. I think there's more value there, but this phone, there's a lot to like, and they've done a lot of things well. If you don't mind Hyper OS, you can always change the launcher. Maybe you can try get around that, but really do like the phone. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, let me know if you have any thoughts, questions in the comments below, and see you guys in the next video.